What's going on, everybody? You see a Jaguar back here with GenJag.com, and we are officially 9 days away from the NFL draft. We are in the single-digit countdown, and there is a lot of different possibilities for the Jaguars at pick number 29. Now, if you look at different mock drafts, you have guys projecting us to take anywhere from like wide receiver to offensive lineman, and a position that a lot of people are mocking us take is the quarterback position. You know, the whole quarterback situation right now, you know, with Blake Bortles, you know, Cody Kessler, there's a lot to make of it. You know, you either believe in Blake Bortles or you don't, and there's really just a lot of debate behind that. Now, in this video, I want to give you guys kind of my perspective on the Jaguars' current quarterback situation. Will we address quarterback in the NFL draft in my eyes? We shall see. So let's go ahead and discuss. Now, the Jaguars are actually pretty active at the quarterback position this offseason. Now, first of all, Blake Bortles was originally set to play on a fifth-year option, which was kind of $19 million toward the cap. But the Jaguars decided to restructure and re-sign his contract to basically a 3-year, $54 million deal. Now, this kind of extends him a little bit, but this also helped out in the cap situation, basically lowering his cap number from $19 million to $10 million, making him a relatively cheap starting quarterback. Tom Coughlin alluded to the fact that he played very well from December on and played his best football in his final 2 games of the playoffs. So that's what really kind of sparked this whole extension for him and why he got re-signed by the Jaguars. And the Jaguars also traded a 7th round pick in 2019 for Cody Kessler. Now, I didn't actually make a video about this, and a lot of people were actually kind of asking me like my thoughts on the whole situation, but you know, I really didn't think it was like that big of news in my eyes, just because, you know, there were a lot of things going on with the Jaguars, how they only had 1 quarterback on the roster, you know, a couple weeks after like free agency kind of ended, and a lot of people were like, oh, well, this basically means that the Jaguars are going to be probably drafting a quarterback at pick number 29, but you know, I did not buy that. I knew at some point that we were going to be getting a backup quarterback because we're not going to have Blake Bortles and a rookie going into next season. But, you know, we were really kind of confused about what exactly the Jaguars were doing. So what they did was they traded a 7th round pick in 2019 for a guy like Cody Kessler. Now, what Cody Kessler brings you is that he brings you a cheap contract, and he also brings you a lot more upside than a lot of other guys that were on the free agency market. You know, the backup quarterback market just really isn't very good. You know, you have just all these players that just kind of play in the NFL for a little bit, don't do all that well, then, you know, kind of journeyman quarterbacks available. But you know, if you look at like Cody Kessler and compare him to Chad Henne. Now, Chad Henne signed a 2-year, $6.7 million deal with the Chiefs. If you compare that to Cody Kessler, he's basically going to be playing for 2 years, $1.6 million, as, you know, he's entering the 3rd year of his rookie contract after being a 3rd round pick out of USC, you know, a pick by the Browns. Now, that is a whole like $5 million difference, and if you ask who you'd rather have, Chad Henne or Cody Kessler, you'd probably say Cody Kessler just because he's a little bit more unknown, and he honestly has a lot more upside than a guy like Chad Henne, who we've pretty much seen what Chad Henne has to offer, and he's pretty much being put in a role in the NFL where he's almost like a quarterback mentor. You know, of course, he's been with Blake Bortles the last 4 years. When Jaguars originally signed him, Blaine Gabbert was their guy. Then Chad Henne was supposed to be kind of his mentor before Blaine Gabbert was just awful, so he got kind of thrust into the starting lineup. You know, now he's over on the Chiefs where Patrick Mahomes is set to take over as the starter over there. Then they're going to have a guy like Chad Henne to be able to kind of mold him and kind of be kind of a mentor to him in the quarterback room and just on the field as he goes through his development as an NFL quarterback. Now, if you look at Cody Kessler, you know, some good stats about him is that he has a 65.6% completion percentage through 8 games that he's played in 2016. And he also has only thrown 2 interceptions. Now, if you look at the bad part of his stats, he is 0-8 as a starting quarterback, and he's only thrown 6 touchdowns in those 8 games. So he seems like a guy that kind of checks down the ball a lot. You know, obviously doesn't have a very big winning percentage, but who really does as a Cleveland Browns quarterback these last 2 years as they have gone 1-31. But I like the move to get Kessler. I mean, we basically traded a 7th round pick for him to bring in like a guy on a cheap contract that, you know, is about $5 million less expensive than a guy like Chad Henne, and he just has more upside. Now, the thing about if you had Chad Henne versus Cody Kessler, if they do wind up playing at all throughout the year, then it's not very good, because either Blake Bortles is going to suck or he's going to get injured. So, you know, I don't think that Kessler's necessarily a guy that you're going to be able to win a lot of games with, but you know, he is a decent backup quarterback, like I said, with a decent amount of upside. So, you know, that's kind of my thoughts on Cody Kessler for those of you guys that have been asking me. Now, the big question is, will the Jaguars draft a quarterback in the NFL draft, and particularly at pick number 29? Now, if you kind of take out the top 4 guys like Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, I forget who I said, you know, the 4 top guys that are all pretty much suspected to go in at least the top 10. You know, the guys that you kind of see being mocked to the Jaguars at 29 are Mason Rudolph, and you also have Lamar Jackson, obviously. Now, Mason Rudolph, I don't really like him as a first-round pick. I wouldn't throw pick number 29 at him just because, you know, like his lack of arm strength really shows up on film. He also had a ton of good weapons around him to really make him look a lot better than he was. You know, he had guys like Marcel Aitman, James Washington, you know, 2 guys that are NFL prospects this year. And, I mean, he's got good size. You know, those guys kind of helped him on a deep ball. But, you know, I don't really like Mason Rudolph that much in the first round. If he's in there round 2, then, you know, potentially. But, yeah, I would kind of say no to a guy like Mason Rudolph. Now, one guy that is intriguing is Lamar Jackson. You know, I really like Lamar Jackson kind of on the film. He's got that high, quiet, tight, quick release. He's an excellent athlete. You know, I just think that Lamar Jackson, I think he could be a pretty good NFL player. Now, I don't think that there's really any chance that he falls to pick number 29. If you are kind of rooting for that to happen, then you should be probably happy that he did decide to make his mom his agent, because that might be the only reason why he falls that far, is just because teams are kind of having trouble kind of reaching him. But I just feel like some team probably in the top 15, 20 picks is going to be so intrigued by kind of this guy's athleticism and kind of what he has to bring to the table that, you know, he might probably be picked before that. So, do I think that the Jaguars will pick a guy at number 29? I really don't think so. You know, I think that we are in win now mode. If you get a quarterback like that, you know, then you're automatically kind of not in win now mode kind of thing. I mean, if you're I mean, I shouldn't say you're not in win now mode, but, you know, it doesn't help you kind of win tomorrow. But, you know, if there's a guy there that the Jaguars absolutely think that they will think that he will become a franchise quarterback, then I could see them pulling a trigger, but, you know, I just don't see it happening. Now, what's very, very possible is the Jaguars could potentially draft a guy between the rounds of 2 to 4. If the Jaguars do, you know, some guys that I like are guys like Mike White out of Western Kentucky. I also like Kyle Lauletta out of Richmond. You know, I like both those guys' films. I think that they could turn into pretty decent NFL players. But if the Jaguars do draft a guy in those rounds, then I would want them to draft him because they do think that he can become a franchise quarterback. Now, a lot of people are, you know, if you're a fan and you're, you know, a lot of fans' perspective is this, you know, I would like the Jaguars to draft a quarterback there, you know, just in case Bortles does fail. You know, that's a good kind of observation from a Jaguars fan standpoint. But, you know, if you're Dave Caldwell or Tom Coughlin and you're saying, oh, let's draft a guy right here, you know, just in case Blake Bortles, like, does fail, then I think that's a complete loser mindset. Just because there were so many quarterbacks available in free agency that you could have gotten for way cheaper than Blake Bortles. You know, you could have gotten a guy like A.J. McCarron. You could have gotten like Teddy Bridgewater. You know, even Case Keenum signed a similar type of deal to Blake Bortles. And, you know, if you're going into this season, you know, with Blake Bortles under helm and you don't think that he can win you a Super Bowl, and you're like, oh, maybe this guy will fail. And I just think that's a complete loser mentality. And you know, one thing, whenever Tom Coughlin kind of speaks about Blake Bortles, I really try to observe him a lot because, you know, if you have a guy like Dave Caldwell, he's going to back up Blake Bortles a lot. You know, he was the guy that drafted him. You know, he's the guy that's been kind of taken rips at just because, he was a guy that drafted Blake Bortles. And, obviously Blake Bortles hasn't had the first few years hasn't had the smoothest NFL career, as his mechanics have been kind of sketchy at times. But, Tom Coughlin, Blake Bortles, like, he kind of raves about Blake Bortles in a way. I mean, he really backs the guy up. He always alludes to the fact that he played his best games in December and like in the playoffs. I think he, likes his prototype. 6'5" is a big dude. I think he likes his toughness. I just think that Tom Coughlin legitimately does like Blake Bortles. Ever since even last offseason, the fact that Blake Bortles in 2016 might have been the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, and the fact that you went into the 2017 season when you thought you could be a team that could win, and you actually went in with Blake Bortles as your starting quarterback, I think that just shows that Tom Coughlin even likes Bortles. So if he liked Bortles after the 2016 season, I think he'll like Bortles after 2017. So I really don't think the Jaguars will draft the guy at 29. I think they'll draft the guy that will really help the team kind of win right away, or even potentially start next year or something like that. Get like an offensive lineman or like wide receiver, some kind of like offensive skill, some kind of offensive position to kind of help our offense on that side. Maybe even like defensive end on a defensive side, like who knows. But I could see the Jaguars potentially drafting a quarterback between the rounds of 2 to 4, but at the same time, like, my gut feeling is that the Jaguars won't draft the quarterback in the top 4 rounds. And if Blake Bortles does somehow regress in the coming season, then I think that they will look to, either like sign a new guy in free agency next season to be able to come in and take the reins, or even potentially, I know the quarterback class next year is not that strong, but, if you see a guy, package some picks together, trade up and kind of get your guy. So those are my kind of thoughts on the quarterback situation. Pick 29, no Mason Rudolph for me. Lamar Jackson is intriguing. If the Jaguars do decide to go draft him, I will be in support of it. It'll be kind of like exciting, but I'm in a minority where I do think that Blake Bortles can develop into a franchise quarterback. Whether I'm stupid for that, whether I'm like a homer for that, I don't know. It's just how I feel. So, thank you guys for watching my video. Let me know what you guys think of the quarterback situation going forward. And this is UC at Jaguar with JenJag.com, and we out. If you from a city, holla Duval.